The gentleman from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do spend a lot of time debating history here, and I think that's not unimportant. I think many of us are more concerned about the future, and certainly can understand after what you announced as far as the scope of amendments that would be allowed, why all of a sudden we have any amendment dealing with the government-sponsored enterprises appear not to be germane. I think on the opening day of the conference, you stated, quote, if the general subject matter is in the bill, you, the chairman, believe we should entertain amendments based on that subject. And so we have the subject matter in the underlying text dealing with the government-sponsored enterprises. And, of course, we have an entire title dedicated to subprime lending. And we know that the government-sponsored enterprises ended up with the lion's share of the subprime lending. You allowed in a Waters Amendment to reverse the Supreme Court's Stone Ridge case. 2 new provisions in the proposed House offer for a permanent extension of the TAG program. And so, again, for many of us, it is a mystery why all of a sudden subject matter dealing with what is at the crux of the financial crisis and the largest bailout, unpaid bailout known to mankind would somehow no longer be germane or not within the scope. I hope other members raise their voice in that regard. With respect to history, again, I think it's important to look at the future. But I think I heard the chairman say that some of us distorted history. I think I heard the chairman said that. I do not believe I did. It was not my intent. Now, I think I've heard the chairman say in 2004 he switched his position on the government-sponsored enterprises. I know I have in my possession a letter dated June 28th addressed to then-President George Bush, where the chairman is the first signatory, and we quote, we write as members of the House of Representatives who continually press the GSEs to do more in affordable housing. Until recently, we have been disappointed that the administration has not been more supportive of our efforts to press the GSEs to do more. We have been concerned that the administration's legislative proposal regarding the GSEs would weaken affordable housing performance by the GSEs by emphasizing only safety and soundness. Now, this is in the public record. I certainly don't have all the gentleman's correspondence from the public record. So I don't know when in 2004 the chairman either changed his position or maybe there's a nuance.
Gentleman, yield?
Here. I'll yield briefly to the chairman.
Yeah, there is a nuance, you could call it. In 2004, I spoke out against home ownership. The distinction there is between my support for multifamily rental housing, where I believe we should have been pushing forward, and we did not have the problem, and ownership by people who were inappropriate, who were not financially ready. So when I talked about affordable housing, I meant, and I understand it wasn't clear to everybody, rental housing. And what I was for doing more in the multifamily rental housing field, but much less in the field of home ownership.
If I could, simply because my time is, I think it's important that this dialogue continue, but I think my time may be running down. I also point out I have a floor statement from the chairman dated June 27th, 2005, who says, quote, so those of us on our committee in particular will continue to push for home ownership. And so I'm somewhat confused about, I'd be happy to yield to the chairman.
Because that's a very partial quote. If that was on home ownership day, I also expressed some concerns about it being inappropriate. Yes, home ownership was a good thing, but not for people who are inappropriate. So I think that was a very partial quote the gentleman just gave.